Tokyo has reported a new record of daily COVID cases for the third consecutive day. That's according to the city's metropolitan government. There were more than 3,800 new infections on Thursday. Olympic organizers say at least 198 cases have been linked to the Tokyo Games so far. Tokyo is currently under a state of emergency until August 22nd. Local media reported that 3 prefecture neighboring the city will ask Japanese government to add them to areas under that state of emergency due to a surge of new infections. And a Bahamian native and NBA superstar appear in the Olympic Games. Our One Caribbean News' DeAndre Hamilton has more on his trip to the global sports stage and the other athletes from the Bahamas competing in Tokyo.
After suffering a heartbreaking loss on the hardwood of the NBA Finals, and as he celebrated his 23rd birthday, Bahamian DeAndre Ayton, center with the Phoenix Suns, did what you're supposed to do. He came home. His private jet loaded with those people he treasures most. Just the day before, he was talking about the loss in a post-game press conference.
The team emotion, everybody's down. But individually, this is just the beginning. You know, as a young player like me and some of the guys on my team, you know, we know what it takes now, you know, and that's all I'm going off of, to be honest. I mean, nobody really expect us to even, you know, be here. I know people talk about, you know, injuries with other teams and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we playing ball. And, you know, I'm just really happy how the guys, you know, had a wonderful season, you know, playing together to bring us, you know, to get us where we are today. But at the same time, you know, we feel it. You know, it leaves a little bad taste in your mouth. But at the end of the day, this is just the beginning, man.
Ayton, a native of Nassau, is poised to attract an even more lucrative NBA salary. His story is so fascinating. The entire nation is inspired and impressed and proud, continuing a long legacy of champion caliber basketball players hailing from the islands of the Bahamas. And as the country celebrated the return home of one standout, it celebrated the send-off of 16 others at the Tokyo Summer Games, finally unraveling in Japan. Completely fan-free are these Olympics. Bahamians were disappointed with the brevity of its team in the Parade of Nations at the opening on Friday, but happier with performances so far in the pool. A fantastic show is sure to come when the electrifying Shawnee Miller-Weibo hits the track.
And that was our DeAndre Hamilton reporting. Well, 2 weeks ago, the country of Cuba saw the largest anti-government protests in a generation, and more than 500 protesters are still missing. According to activists, the July 11th demonstrations were unprecedented in a country where opposition to the communist government is swiftly shut down. Even though the government hasn't taken back control, many people are still angry about the collapse of the economy, food and medicine shortages, lack of internet access, and the rise in COVID cases. Patrick Ottman brings us this next story.
When the largest protest since Fidel Castro's revolution swept Cuba, the Cuban government quickly struck back, carrying out mass arrests. Some protesters were forcibly detained as they chanted Patria y Vida, or Homeland and Life, the song that has become the anthem of frustration with the communist state. One of those arrested was photographer Anielo Troya, who filmed part of the music video for Patria y Vida in Havana. Less than 2 weeks after the protests, Troya was tried, convicted, and sentenced to a year in prison. His mother says he told the court he did nothing wrong. He said, "How is this just when I haven't even seen a lawyer and I'm innocent," he says. Immediately, one of the police in civilian clothes came and handcuffed him. I said, "My love, be calm, you're not alone." The Cuban government refuses to say how many people have been arrested or face trial for taking part in the unprecedented protests. An activist group put the number at almost 700. The government maintains those arrested are detained for attacking police, like in this video where protesters pelt cars with rocks, and not just for challenging the rule of the Communist Party, the only political party allowed on the island. Having different opinions, including political ones, doesn't constitute a crime, he says. Thinking differently, questioning what's going on. To demonstrate is not a crime, it's a right. But on the streets of Cuba, elite special forces commandos known as the Black Berets, who were recently placed on the sanctions list by the Biden administration for alleged acts of repression, prevent further protests from breaking out. Many of the relatives of the people who were arrested would not talk to us on camera. They were too afraid. But some did tell us that their loved ones had done nothing other than peacefully demonstrate or simply record and upload videos of the historic protests as they took place. Odette Hernandez was arrested days after the protests, her relatives say, for posting this video of the demonstrations to Facebook that have now been viewed over 100,000 times. Among the charges she and her husband face is instigation of delinquency. Odette's cousin spoke to several people who were around Odette during the protests and told us their accounts from his home in Paris. They weren't violent. They didn't throw rocks at anyone, he says. Then special troops came to get them at their home, a commando unit with many police. Many of Cuba's top artists have criticized the government crackdown and called for an amnesty for nonviolent protesters. Amidst the mass trial, some signs of leniency, as a day after we visited his home, photographer Anielo Troya was released on house arrest while awaiting appeal. The government here, though, says it has only just begun to prosecute those who broke the law, as all of Cuba seemingly holds its breath and waits to see what comes next. Patrick Ottman, CNN Havana.
And a small coastal town in Colombia is sounding the alarm on a large influx of Haitian and African migrants. The mayor of Nicoli, Jorge Tabon, declared the situation a public calamity after the municipality's services collapsed. Tabon says as many as 800 migrants have shown up every day for the last 4 months. The mayor says about 10,000 migrants are currently stranded, waiting to get a ticket to travel across the Panama Canal and ultimately reach the U.S. Some have been waiting there for a month, crowding the town's beaches and impacting tourism, according to a local risk management official. Tabon also expressed concerns with the pandemic, suspecting many of these migrants may not be vaccinated.